Welcome to each of you to this sacred space and time, a moment in our busy lives where we come together to serve and honor our mission to build beloved community and promote justice through compassion, reason, and respect. Respect particularly for our elders and ancestors who have loved and continue to love this faith community into being. My name is Reverend Nick Filzen, and I'm joined today by worship host Debbie Crane Campanella and music director David Netches. We'll also have the privilege of hearing reflections from 4 of our living ancestors, Don Hostetler, Joyce Nolan, Liz Goodson, and Lynn Dennison. And I want to just say how happy I am with how full it is here this morning. We ran out of orders of service, which is a good problem to have. If you're a visitor or have been here for decades, you are welcome here. Visitors may find a blue card in the seat pocket in front of you. If you could fill this out and leave it at the front table before you leave, this will help us keep in touch with you and help you be more connected with us. We look forward to getting to know you and welcome you all. I'll be standing just outside following the service and would love it if you came by to say hi. You're also invited to stick around for some coffee and cookies after the service so others can say hi too. We'll know you by your orange name tag. Whether here for the first time or the 1,000th, I sincerely hope you get what you need today. I'd like to remind folks that following the service today at about 12:30, we will hold a hybrid congregational meeting. Members and friends are invited to come and speak their conscience if they like, and members will have a chance to vote on some important budget changes for the fiscal year. And we'll also share some cool new projects the board and I have been working on. You can continue to register for that event until the event starts at about 12:30. Just outside here, Natalie will help you out. That's Natalie right there. Serving the spiritual needs of children is important and integral, but if we don't have adults to facilitate that work, we can't do it. If you have an interest in serving our kids' spiritual needs during Sunday morning worship, please speak with Reverend Kim, who isn't here this morning, but if you want to chat with me about it this morning, that's fine too. May we now move fully into our time of worship, a time to hold one another in care, along with the people and stories that got us here. Wait till the end. Go ahead, David. Wait until the end of the video. Wait until the end. Would folks please rise and body our spirit for our first hymn, hymn number 107, Now We Sing of the Brave of Old. And we'll wait until the lyrics get up there just... Now sing we of the brave of old, who would not sell themselves for gold, yet left us riches manifold. Alleluia, of those who fought a goodly fight, for liberty, for truth and right. Yet vision of the chiefest light.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. I'm Margaret Tuck, representing the Pastoral Care.
Each other in their life's journeys here, and including our folks who identify as kids. And I'm going to need their help this morning for a little time for all ages that I hope will work at least somewhat. So if folks who identify as kids feel comfortable coming up, Debbie's going to help you out. We have here a timeline of this church's history. And I'm going to ask our kids to help unfold it. If you come over here and help with this, help Debbie here with the timeline. We're gonna unfold the timeline as though it is unfolded to their lives to this moment. And there was tons of symbolism here if you want to see it. We're going to unfold the timeline, and then each of you will literally be holding our history. And thank you to Debbie for helping out. We need our elders to help our young folks unfold our lives together and move forward. And I'm going to ask now that while you're holding this, to kind of touch it, look at it a little bit, perhaps even smell it, see if it smells like anything. Just kind of engage with it with all of our senses. Maybe if I help hold this for a second, if you want to come over and see if you recognize any names. There's a lot of names here. Here's one right here, Don Hostetler, who's speaking today. Hi, Don. There's a lot of history here. And you all we're very fortunate that you all are here to hold it for us. So I just want to thank you for that. But we ask that you take care. It's our history. The memory of our ancestors and the work they did before us requires care and gentleness. So I appreciate that you're all holding it as though you care about this history. But it's also okay for you to take ownership of our history, for you to feel like this history is one that you can keep holding. To be stewards of it. You may not know the word steward, but basically stewards means somebody who takes care of something and shape it as your own. I see that there are little bends and creases in here as you're holding it together, that it's not perfectly flat, it's not perfectly linear, that you're actually taking part in shaping it as your own right now. Now, Debbie is going to help you roll it back up before you leave. Again, take care of this history. And then they can go to their classes now. Our future holds the past in its hands as our past holds the future in its hands.
As you go, rejoice around you. As you go, go in peace. Know our love is with you always. As you go, as you go.
That went as well as I hoped. Throughout the week and in the past few weeks, I've asked folks to, if they can, bring objects with them to the service today that connect you somehow to your lives here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Augusta. An object that reminds you of a memory that you receive from here that has special meaning for you. Other religions might call these objects relics. I know that some folks may not have brought some, and that's okay, because I put several up here already on the altar. And if you didn't bring one, if you didn't bring an object today, and you would like to come up and grab something off of the altar for now, we'll be using this object for our time for meditation today. So is there anybody that needs an object that needs to come up and grab one right now? I'm not seeing any hands. Oh, Jim? Anybody else? And if you don't have one, and if you don't want to come up and grab something from the altar, that's fine. I think we can probably use even the chair on which you sit for this experience and this meditation. And like the kids before, I'm going to ask us through this time for meditation to kind of explore these objects through all of our various senses in a way that I hope will connect us even more deeply with this community's past and present, and hopefully the future. So, if you have your object in your hands, or if you just want to use the seat, now is the time for us to enter this time of meditation, a time that I hope will be meaningful for you, and that it will ground you both to the present and to our past. I'm going to ask folks first to close their eyes. Take the object in your hands. Again, if you want to use the seat below you, that's fine. I'm going to ask you to slowly feel the object. Feel the relic. Notice any creases, any folds. What's the contour of your object? What is its shape? Are there any dips or crevices, or is there anything that juts out? Does it feel smooth? Maybe rough? Does this object feel different to you now than it did a moment ago? Feel different to you now than it did years ago? Now, take the object and open your eyes and look at it. Explore any images, any colors. If there are images of people, look deeply into those faces, into those past moments caught forever in your memory. Perhaps think about how those people or this object, how they might look different now than they did before. And what those changes might mean to you. Does your object have a smell to it? Take a moment to smell it. See if there's anything unique about its scent. All of these objects, all of these memories, all of these things that are markers, buoys in our lives together, may they continue to connect you to this community, to each other. May holding our history be something that we explore every day. And as we enter this time of silence, I invite you now, as you're willing and able, to come up and put your objects upon the altar. Maybe don't bring a chair up. Blessed be.
Hello, everyone. Today we remember and honor the proud 67-year history of our wonderful congregation. Please give generously today to honor our past and ensure that we may continue to live out our mission into the future. Our ushers will now start the collection.
Thank you all for your generosity. I want to thank David for picking out music today that was written at the time that this congregation became, that it emerged. You may notice the dates of the pieces in your orders of service. I appreciate his intentionality around that. The postlude is when this building was first dedicated. David, I appreciate you holding our history through music. I'll take this moment of all the sounds around us in this world, passing by all at once. I appreciate our first responders who do their work. I want to make sure that I acknowledge that they're right now probably going to save somebody's life, and I want to hold that with grace. So the theme here at the UU Church of Augusta this month is holding history. Today's focus is on the history of this community, specifically how our faithful ancestors and elders got us here. Today we'll be holding our history. Now, I can't really tell the stories of UUCA in a way that wouldn't be better shared by the people who actually experienced those events. Therefore, I've asked 4 people who have graciously agreed to help out today: Don Hostetler, Joyce Nolan, Liz Goodson, and Lynn Dennison, who will be joining us through videos she made this week, all of whom, in some way or another, have spanned nearly the entirety, perhaps the entirety, of this congregation's history, to share a meaningful memory or two, or maybe three, from their lives here. It's the people that got us through all these times, and I couldn't be more grateful for some of those same people to gift us with their stories today. First up, we'll have perhaps our eldest of elders, Don Hostetler.
It's been a long time. By surviving to 91, and believe me, it has been survival, Betty and I are the last remaining attendees at the first meeting of the Unitarian Fellowship of Augusta 67 years ago in 1954. I want to recognize one last remaining. Greg Sutherland is the last remaining student in our first Sunday school. As you can imagine, I have many memories, pleasant and unpleasant. I'll mention a few of the pleasant. During the first 2 years, we met in the Walton Way Temple, the YWCA, a ballet studio, and the old government house. We then rented the Music Academy in an old house on Walton Way where we could watch President Eisenhower arrive at church across the street when he was down to play golf at the Augusta National. We met under a painting of 4 old men playing cards while the children attended Sunday school in the basement. After 2 years in the cold confines of the Music Academy, we moved across the street to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Conveniently for them, Saturday was the seventh day, so we could rent their building. Meeting in rented quarters was not satisfactory. So in 1960, with a membership of 45, we completed the first phase of this building. The common room, the classrooms, kitchen, and half of the lobby. In 1975, the Aiken Fellowship, which was actually founded a year before ours, disbanded and donated their meeting house to us. We sold the building and added the office wing and doubled the size of the lobby. There's a plaque in the lobby that commemorates this. We added the last section of the building in 1985 in this meeting room and hall. Our biggest mistake was the flat roof that leaked for 10 years until we finally repaired it. For the past 40-plus years, the church has been blessed with first-class musicians. Joe Patchen for most of the time, and now David. What about the first 25 years? The answer still astonishes me every time I think of it. I have little musical talent, but for 25 years I was the church musician. Using a reel-to-reel tape recorder, I selected, recorded, and played most of the music used in our Sunday service. Singing hymns every week was years away. On Saturday, I recorded the music. On Sunday, I set it up in the corner of the common room by the kitchen and pushed the buttons at the right time. This demonstrates one thing. Once one starts doing something, unless you do it badly, people are very happy to let you keep doing it. social justice issues were always a concern. In 1954, Augusta was a male-oriented, segregated community, so sexism and racism were at the top of our list. Shortly after we moved into this building, we opened, with others from the community, the Open Door Kindergarten, the first integrated school of any kind in Augusta. In 1954, the third major social justice issue, homosexuality, had not entered into our consciousness. The closets were still full. In 1967, the UUA did a survey of members that included a question on homosexuality. Listen carefully and think of the current UU attitude on LGBT issues. A mere 52 years ago, 8% of UUs believed that homosexuality should be discouraged by law. 80% that it should be discouraged by education. And only 12% that it should not be discouraged, and a minuscule 0.1% that it should be discouraged. What this does show that attitudes can change radically in 50 years. For the first 15 years, we were a lay-led fellowship with an occasional visiting minister. Now, Reverend Nick is our 12th minister. Our first minister, John Goldthwait, was a joy. Maybe his most memorable service was entitled, "What Do You Expect?" The service went on as usual until about 5 minutes into his sermon when he walked out of the room. The responses ranges from astonishment to anger. After a few minutes, he returned and led a discussion on, "What did you expect?" The other 11 ministers have provided a lot of help and insights and joys and sorrows. The church has been the second most meaningful entity in my life after my family, and I've spent many hours out here in addition to providing the music. In the 50s and 60s, we were a small minority in a repressive community. We were often referred to as an oasis in the desert. What keeps me coming is being with like-minded people and the friends we have made over the 67 years.
What up, Joyce?
Good morning. I'm Joyce Nolan, and it's always been my fate in life to have to follow Don Hostetler. A very hard thing. I've been a member of this church for 56 years, and when Reverend Nick called me, the first thing he says, "Do you have a minute to chat?" And I said, "Another time would be better." I was sitting in my lounge chair watching TV. I didn't know him. I'd never met him. Why did I give that response? Because it scared me. Back in January, I had a very mild case of COVID and didn't suffer very much, but I had the lingering effects of brain fog and extreme fatigue. And when he asked me if I would share, my first response was no. But then I knew that I had to take on the challenge. And boy, has it been a bigger challenge than I ever thought it would be, to incorporate 56 years of memories into 3 to 4 minutes. Don got more time than I did. I just wanted to warn you, if I sit down or stop talking, there might be a reason. I grew up in a very small, rural Southern Baptist church, which was the center of my life. But as a teenager, I started asking questions, but I was afraid to really doubt much because that was a sin. And so I went from church to church as I grew up until I met a lady at the University of Florida who worked with me, and I was telling her about some of my struggles, and she said, "Joyce, you're a Unitarian." I would be if I weren't Jewish. And that set me on the path that brought me here. You can tell the age. I don't have a phone that I'm reading from. I don't even have it typed out. I was still writing this on the way to church this morning. I spent most of my time with the children in RE once we got here. I learned from them and with them. I was a teacher. I was the chair of the Religious Education Committee. Then I became director of religious education. There were lots of memories. One was doing the best Christmas pageant ever, cast by the real Herndons. We had a good time doing that. At that time, the children met separately. They had their own little worship service, and then they went to their classes. And so one of our thoughts was that they needed to have words for the lighting of the chalice. That was a great experience because we spent several Sundays talking with the children. We met with the parents. We met with the committee. And then we came up with the words of the chalice. Even with my brain fog, all these years later, I remember those words. I'm going to read them in case I forget, though. We come together to honor life, our own, others, and all living things. We come together to share our feelings, good and bad. We come together to seek answers to our questions and share our answers with others. May the search for truth and knowledge, which this flame represents, spread throughout the world. That was our answer as to why we come to church. Now, most of my time was spent in the RE wing, but I did venture out to serve as the president of the church. And I was president when this sanctuary was built and dedicated. There were real learning experiences because I had to learn to start thinking with my head and not my heart, which was my general mode of thinking. But I was so proud when this sanctuary was built. And it provided for so many things that we were not able to do. One, I can't put into words and describe to you or help you to experience unless you were there, but we did a 2-night performance of the musical Godspell open to the public, and we were full each night. We didn't have a musician, we didn't have a choir, we just adapted and everybody pushed in. In the Sunday school, the children learned about the essence of Christianity and the parables that were talked about. But the thing that I love the most, it was one of the things that I've always pushed for in the church, is the coming together with the children, with the adults. Our ranges and performers were from age 3 to, I think Rufus was 83. And all the people in the church came together to put it together. and that's always been one of my favorite members. We've lost the video and don't have one, but I wish we had one to show you because it was truly miraculous. The other one is a little known fact here that I'll share with you today. Once we got the sanctuary, we decided that we needed a piano, the old one that we had when Don that we played from time to time when Don wasn't doing the music, wasn't going to work in here. So the congregation decided that we would take donations in memory or honor of others and put their names on a plaque. And so we collected enough money to buy the piano. And Marcus Clayton, most of you won't know Marcus, but he was a brilliant scientist, a talented musician, but he had lost his sight and one arm in an accident in his youth. So Marcus and I went piano shopping. He played with his one arm all of these classical musical songs. It all sounded like heaven to me, but he would go on until he finally said, "This is the one, and this is the one." I was here when to let the delivery people in with the piano, and after they left, I was sitting in here with just the piano, and I went over and I played the only song that I remembered by heart from my childhood, that little rural Baptist church. It was "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." I thought you might like to know that was the first song that was played on this piano here in the church. I also played it at the Spooner House up in where is it located? Somewhere up north. Now, dancing was forbidden when I was growing up, but my favorite song is "Let It Be a Dance." One of my favorite memories was in a Sunday morning service, and Rudy Nyhoff came, and we danced. He danced with me, or I followed him, or tried to dance to "Let It Be a Dance." And I had never been able to follow anybody in dancing because there was still this tight thing inside me that said, "This is wrong, this is bad." So some of the lyrics are, "Let it be a dance with you. Let it be a dance we do. May I have this dance with you. Through the good times and the bad times too. Let it be a dance. May I have this dance with you?"
Liz, would you join me up here?
Yep, I'm Liz Goodson, and I joined this church in 1975 after I'd been divorced. And somebody told me that there was a Unitarian church in Augusta that had a singles group, the Singletarians. So I came to church, and I was just so happy to be here. I was welcomed. Even though I'm an agnostic, and I could just be myself and not have to worry about offending anybody. And I was surprised to find that there were people here that worked out at the Savannah River site. That's where I was working as an environmental scientist. So I stayed here and went to Singletarians. And that was an interesting, they did interesting things together. And after a while, I started dating Hoyt Goodson, who was the fellow who had started the Singletarians. And then about a year later, I bought the house next door to him and moved in from the Burke County woods so that my son could go to Richmond Academy. And And then after a while, when my son was getting ready to go to college, Hoyt and I got married on December 25th, 1979. And I was president of the Unitarian Church of Augusta at that year. Through the years, this church has had so many interesting groups to join. Religious exploration, yoga class, potlucks, plays, women's lunch group, book club, Buddhist group. Hoyt taught a haiku poetry class for a year and taught us to follow the seasons as we wrote our haiku. And Hoyt and I used to have a seasonal church picnic at our pond and a tour of our energy-efficient underground house. By the way, this church sanctuary was made more energy efficient by building a hill of dirt around the walls outside. Our church has been active in interfaith activities with other religious groups. We've marched in the Martin Luther King parades. We marched in the Pride parades. There are many ways to help our church try to make this a better world for all of us. My years here, I've enjoyed the Caring and Support Committee, the Building and Grounds Committee, the Membership Committee, assisting with religious education for the children, getting a church sign put up by the driveway. So if you think of a new activity you'd like to participate in, find a few people who would join you in creating it, alert the church board, and then you can start meeting as a church. So you can do things too.
I'm Lynn Dennison, and I joined the church 40 years ago in 1981. I'm going to talk about a couple of things to show why I think it's important for us to touch the past. In 2004, our church celebrated its 50th anniversary. I'd been a member for over 20 years by then and was a member of the 50th anniversary committee. I volunteered to write a little history of our church and was able to cover the first 25 years, which is now on our website. As I prepared by reading the newsletters and other documents from our beginnings, there were many names from the early years that I knew as longtime members. There were other names I'd heard stories about, but who were no longer around. One anniversary event was our oral history luncheon, where members shared their earlier memories of the church, some good and some bad, and many funny ones. This experience gave me insight into how our church has many ups and downs, and many changes in types of leadership, changes in what our interests are, and even our theology. The early services and members were strongly humanistic. Although we considered ourselves varied in belief, it didn't come close to the variety we have among us now. The lessons for me in learning about our past is that our church has and will continue to have easy times and hard times, but it's our community and our identity, and we will keep this church vibrant in the long haul. I feel lucky to be able to touch the past with the stories of our founders while also touching the future as I interact with our children and young adults. I also want to reminisce briefly about raising my son in the church in the mid-'80s and through the '90s. The elementary age religious education classes were taught by a variety of adult volunteers. The pros were that the children were able to meet and learn from many of the adults in the church. The cons was that there was less continuity from one Sunday to the next. The children learned about nature, other religions, how to treat others, among other things. At the time, there were a fair number of children in RE, but the classes were still small. When my son reached middle and high school, there was a youth leader who helped provide a good bonding experience among their small group. They had overnight lock-ins, special projects putting in a garden, and trips to the mountain for camp. If you don't know about our UU Camp and Conference Center in the North Carolina mountains, it's a very special place for both children and adults. Middle and high school are important developmental phases for our kids. My son's UU cohorts were a wide variety of both personalities and abilities. They provided a contrast to his more traditional friends from school. The trips to mountain camp were particularly special, where they were able to meet UU teens from around the South. They maintained some of these connections for years. I think Ruth Garrison, Pat Lynch Hayes, Marcia Wurst, and Gayla Kesey, among others, can attest to just how special these group experiences were for our children. My nephew, who attended mountain camp from a UU church in Charlotte, commented how amazing it was to be in such an accepting group. My son has told me the best thing that the UU church taught him is to be accepting of everyone. This isn't just our history. This is an important part of our future. Thank you.
The financial resources of our ancestors. Our history was held with great care by the folks who spoke today, many others who are still with us, and many who only remain with us in our collective memory. Now it is all our jobs, whether we've been here for a few months, a few years, or several decades, to continue holding our history with great care so that our future might be held too. Blessed are we because of the blessings shared by those who came before us. Our next hymn will be hymn number 1068, Rising Green. Please rise in body or spirit.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak. Her sap doth run in my veins. Boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have reigned. Where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have reigned. My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My side as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sounds the measures of old, that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity. I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on the far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love old into new. Our dreaming shows us the way. Wondrous our faith settles deep in the earth, rising green to bring a new day. Rising green, rising green, rising green to bring a new day. Today's words to extinguish the chalice are adapted by Leah Derlin Jones, entitled Inspired by Our Ancestors. For those who came before us, we offer gratitude and thanks. May their memories be a blessing. May we feel surrounded by their love. As we go forth from this time and place, let us be inspired by their courage, their wisdom, and their dreams. Let us honor them by doing the work of living boldly, loving mightily, and creating beloved community within, among, and beyond. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart.
So I should say that when I was 16 away at a summer camp, the camp put on a production of The Fantastics, and I was the music director, and that was the first show that I ever did at 16. And I could play, but that was about it. I really didn't know what I was doing. But that was the very first show. I've gone on to do a bunch of shows since then, but that was the very first one when I was 16. And now, I have to play just a little bit of this. You can dance on your way out.